for use of the equipment in certain, not even assessment, management of certain situations. So as we finalize the equipping, I think they still require some little equipment, and we have also included them in the KP program. We are now going to do another 10 regional centers so that the Nairobi Center becomes a referral center. But we would want to do 10 regional centers so that it makes it more closer to these particular learners. You remember there were these EAC centers. And I think one of our biggest problems is that most of the people who are working in these centers were teachers. At one time, I think TSC recalled them, and the centers have had problems. But we are now want to do 10 regional centers as we go down, and I hope at one time we shall be having a center in every county.
Why did TSC recall them, yet they are part of government?
It was that they were needed in a classroom.
But even the SNE learner is in our classroom, or what? Or what is the issue?
I think on this one we need to engage ourselves better, because EAC centers were seen as not learning centers, but Ministry of Education institutions. Therefore, we needed to recruit staff. Now, on homegrown is what we are investing in across all over across the world, where school feeding programs are done. The most sustainable way of feeding children is through homegrown. And homegrown can only work in places where communities can be able to do some little farming and produce commodities, so that the schools can be able to get it from the homes around there. And there are only 10 counties that we do food in kind. Most of the other counties we do homegrown, where we send the money to schools so that the schools can source for food from the local communities. A sustainable school feeding program should go to homegrown direction, unless for real areas like our 10 counties, mainly in the northern region, who require actual food. On what Honorable Nabi asked is that we shall need to work on a framework of working with the CDF, because we know the CDF framework is more sustainable. It has been tested over a longer time, and therefore this is one area where going forward, starting next financial year, we would want to work with the MPs. I think the details on how we shall work with the MPs is an engagement that we shall have with the CDF board, with the MPs, so that we can get a proper framework of working together. We are in discussion with World Bank for another almost 9 billion shillings. If that goes through, then we shall see now with 13 billion shillings, if the MPs can give us 2 shillings for every of our 1 shilling, then we are looking at almost 40 billion shillings, and we should be able to sort out our main, most of the things that we need to do for our schools. On vehicles, Chair, I would want to confirm that we've concluded the process of procuring the vehicles. The thing that we are working on now is delivery of the actual vehicles. So that is on, and I think we shall be on course to make sure that we optimize on the resources before the end of the financial year. But otherwise, we have concluded the procurement process. It is now purely delivery of the vehicles, which is now ongoing. On curriculum supervision, I think the biggest thing that we need to do now as a country is to ensure that we are able to give support to our teachers. And the support should be school-based. And that we need more officers to debrief and to work with teachers on ensuring that they are delivering curriculum. We all cannot deny that between 2002, with the primary education, that the quality of our primary education slightly went down. But I think with the increased investment in quality assurance, we would want to take it back. The other thing I would want to tell members is on this quality assurance process, we are also delivering on technology. I can now be able to know real time when an officer goes to a school and look into our system. With my dashboard in my office, I'll be knowing that on lesson 8 to 9, there is somebody in Nairobi Primary School doing a lesson observation.
And on that, PS, I think maybe before I give you, I think you know the importance of quality assurance and standards for the success of any curriculum.
Yes.
And I think that is a department you really need to invest in. If CBC is to be successful, if any program you have is to be successful, either primary, secondary, or even at whatever level. But when we look at the financial data here you've given to school, what do you call it? It's the money you have put into school. I'll just get the figures straight away. What you have put into quality assurance, you really need to put more money. Because noting that now you are hiring officers, we have the officers, you know, these schools are so many. What is the ratio of your officers to the number of schools and the teachers in the field there? Because that is actually going to guide you. Because the moment you will pump billions of shillings to the ground, it should have the same number of officers to make sure that the money, there is value for money, and the utilization is being done well. So you really need to look into that going forward. Yes?
Yeah,
yes, on the same note.
Two supplementary questions to the same, but thank you, Chair. PS, I mobilized funds recently from donors, Equity Bank and KCB, to just do something. I want to shock you. Out of 76 mathematics teachers, an expert who was working with them gave them a quiz. That quiz is a basic Form 1 quiz. 11 got 0 out of 10. The average mark was 4.5. We were running a program with the top students in the constituency, 10% of every school, 497. The report I've read from one of the chief examiners of chemistry says the students are not taught. They didn't know and they're in Form 4, they didn't know the basic concepts of chemistry. I went to a primary school called Panpepa Primary. I arrived in that school at 11. The head teacher was not there. The deputy was not there. The school was under senior teacher. By 3 p.m., each class had no teacher. PS, put money in quality. Let's stop lying to our children. It's bad out there.
That's true, and I think and then PS, you'll come up, give us the standard requirement. What is the ratio of the officers vis-a-vis the population? Yes.
Thank you, Chair. On the issue that you raised of funds.
Follow-up.
Yes, it's a follow-up.
On the issue you were talking
of funds
about.
and audit.
Yes.
And the amount of money pumped into it. Chair, I want to ask the PS, have you ever considered moving this function of audit to the National Audit Office so that we can create a directorate of schools audit under the National Audit and the Auditor General with their staff so that it is independent from you and, of course, the separation of duties will be effectively.
Yes, PS. Let's finish that.
Yeah.
On the same issue of quality assurance?
Yes, yes. I just want to say that the first quality assurance officer in school is the head. So we need to start with those heads who are not in school every time and who are not managing their schools before we invest in the others.
Yes, and that means there is a very close collaboration between the Teacher Service Commission and yourself, so that that thing is implemented. Proceed.
The Teacher Service Commission must be an agent of these people.
On what
Order members.
on the additional question by Honorable Obara, I want to assure you that starting last financial year, the National Audit Office now covers our schools fully. It is their responsibility to do audit, and they have done quite well. And this year, we are working with them. They have already given us certain framework that they need from ourselves. Of schools now, our school audit now becomes an internal audit framework. But the external auditing of schools will be done by Canal. Yeah. On the quality assurance and schools, our quality assurance framework, which we have finalized, though it will go through review after the Presidential Working Party, is that we shall be putting more emphasis in what we call institutional-based quality assurance systems, so that we build the capacity of teachers to do peer review and quality assuring at that particular level. But yes, Navi, I hear you on the Honorable Navi on the issues of our teachers, and that's why we have continuous professional development. We have continuous capacity building. Just like all other professions, even a doctor, if they don't practice and go to the theater every time, it can be very dangerous. So that is why we would want to see how we support our teachers. And part of that support is quality assurance. And we thank this committee because we've increased the budget for quality assurance by almost 1,000%, from 35 million to 300 million. It is a significant statement. We also, you are able to set aside 1.2 billion shillings to get to and that now our officers can be able to move. 3 is that we are already in discussion with will be agents of the ministry in terms of working and supporting in the quality assuring, so that we can increase the army, because they already have 1,200 officers under the curriculum support officers, building up with our almost 500 quality assurance, another almost 500 in delivering curriculum. On the sanitary towels, I want to assure you that as we are sitting here, the distribution of sanitary towels is ongoing now. And as to whether it can also fall under pending bills, any item on our budget can be a pending bill depending on cash flow, including the sanitary towel, because it's all about cash flow. But what we have done is that we are prioritizing payment of sanitary towel, school feeding program, because these are interventions. We do not want them to cross a year with any bill. And we've always done that to make sure that that is done. To combine that together with what Mwalimu was asking on whether we can have the sanitary towels go to our women reps, we have discussed to the head of public service to indicate that whoever does it, so long as the sanitary towels are in schools. That is the bottom line.
Chair, then on that, who is this? Who is this? Who is this then? Who is distributing them right now?
The Ministry of Education.
Allow Jerusha to, yes, Jerusha, are you through?
I'm not through. Yeah, of course, that's what we wanted to hear, that the distribution has started. Yes. But for sure, we know that is the work of the ministry. But us as partners, we know how effective it would be if you used either the Ministry of Gender or the women reps. But as it is now, who is doing it? Is it the ministry on the ground, or they have started from the headquarters here?
Thank you. Maybe PS, you can respond to that.
Okay. So thank you very much. As for the distribution, we agreed with our colleagues at the Ministry of Gender that we shall join together. But at the end, before end of business tomorrow, I can avail a schedule of distribution to every women representative in the 47 counties, so that they will be aware where the sanitary towels are going to. So I can give a schedule by end of business tomorrow to all our women representatives, so that we can be able, you can support us in monitoring and making sure that the sanitary towels have reached our girls. On construction of sub-county offices, that one we shall provide the schedule. I may not be having the schedule now, but we shall provide the schedule. On the new classrooms, is that I will check if at the cost, the integrated resource center, the equivalent of a lab that we are going to build in junior secondary schools. It will be between 1.8 million and 2 million shillings. But the classrooms is at a cost that you'll be doing your CDF projects, because we are going to work together on this one. And I would want to pray that CDF will be doing it at a lower cost than our schools would do. Yeah, I'm saying I would want to pray that that's what happens. Now, on the additional PE, we are going to recruit some more quality assurance. In fact, the additional money is 444 million shillings. That's the exact amount that we have been given, 444. And we shall invest more of these resources in recruiting more quality assurance officers, because that is where we need. Mwalimu, the last time we bought books for secondary schools was in 2019-2020 financial year. Thereafter, we said we have enough books in our schools. We've not, again, gone into new books in our secondary schools, because we think, for now, other than the new schools, in fact, we are having discussions with the Kenya Secondary School Aids Association now, asking them what is your way forward. But I can tell you, if there is one thing that supported our schools, is that there are schools with an enrollment of 100 kids. If we leave those schools to buy for themselves books, given the resources that they get, they will not do a one-to-one in 5 years. So they still need for us to see how we pool resources and support the schools across board as we move forward.
But PS, can you allow the schools with the excess books to give those without books? Because they can give, but they fear. There are many schools with excess books.
I can tell you, Mwashimua, I know you were with us not so long ago. We did a circular. We send our field officers to request these schools. They will tell you we have excess, but they will not discharge even one book. Saying yes, but when you tell them to act and discharge books, but I can tell you over time, because of the 100% transition, in 2018, so it means even the schools which would have thought that they had excess, out of the 100% transition, we may have gone below the 1-to-1 book ratio that we had achieved. On the invigilation, I would want to believe that that we have sung that so low that because we have not been paid, we want to compromise the integrity of our examinations. Because there should never be a relationship between payment and integrity of processes. I want to think that our teachers, me being one of them, will live to our expectation of being teachers and make sure that we support our children. But notwithstanding, they gave a service, and we are going to make sure that we pay for that service. This year is the year that we are going to review the rates at which we pay our invigilators and our marking, because we review after every 3 years. And this is the year that we are going to review. And I can assure you that we are cautious of the need for us to do that review. And we shall make sure that as much as we can, given the resources that is there, and appreciating the situation that we are in as a country, we shall make sure that our examiners and our invigilators and our other contracted professional services, including the security teams, are adequately taken care of for the service that they will have provided to our children. Thank you very much.
A small one, Chair.
Yes, sir. So that we have a last round, yes?
Thank you, Chair. Yes, while we were doing supplementary, I raised to you 2 issues. Today you've said you even have money, you are only waiting for the exchequer. Chairman, I'm worried for the CBC classrooms. We would be paying for very poorly done jobs. What have you put in place to ensure that that money you are not going to pay? And you can go visit any school that they did a CBC in Lugari. Any. Whether Bishop Njenga, whether Locho Primary, any. Please pick any. Don't ask me to give any that they did. And go and see what happened. In fact, in Bishop Njenga, we have had to move the girls out of that class. 2, I also raised to you the issue of SEQUIP. The laboratories, terribly done. Check Bishop Njenga, check Mugunga Secondary. That is wastage of money from World Bank.
Thank you. And on the same note, most of the projects are not complete, PS, yes. And I think the project is coming to a complete. Can you ensure that these contractors complete these projects on time? I think those are the, you'll respond that with the last set of questions. I'll give Honorable Barto, Honorable Abdul, and Honorable Njendi, and Honorable Taitumu.
Thanks, Chair. Mine is just general one. I was asking, is it a crime to declare pending bills? Because it would seem it's a trend. All the officers who have appeared before this committee, the first thing they make is there are no pending bills.
Yes, thank you. Next one, Abdul.
Mine is more or less also like a Nairobi, Chair, if you allow, because I won't get another opportunity to ask this question as a Nairobi. I wanted to know about the cluster subjects for the teacher trainees, diploma teacher trainees for primary schools. Are those cluster subjects still there? Because we have a lot of conflicting information around that those cluster subjects are no longer there, and then I just wanted clarity on that. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mine is on question. When I looked at the list of the 30 counties, I was wondering why Meru is not there. All areas bordering or adjacent to counties like Kitui, counties like Isiolo, all those areas adjacent are very dry. The conditions are the same as of those counties. So kindly, as you do other interventions, as you review the areas that should be benefiting, Meru as extreme areas, don't perceive the Meru County to be the uplands where you find the coffee and the rest of crops. I can see one of the officers is looking. If you go to Tiganias and the Gembes, they're in the extreme. So Kiora is looking at me because he knows those lower areas are adversely affected. So don't have that perception of the tea and the rest.
Thank you. PS, the intake to primary teacher colleges has really fallen. But I see you are saying that you have new teacher training colleges you are beginning to construct, and yet the current ones even have low intakes. Because one, loss of interest in teaching courses at primary level. Secondly, because of the increase, the raised admission grades. So just confirm that you are doing these new colleges for what? What's the idea? You know, sometimes you have learned that where you want, for you to make money, get into construction. Could it be the case? Secondly, still on the same construction, the infamous Makoha classrooms, very many of them, low quality as Nabi is saying. You are also talking of same classrooms, laboratories, etc., etc. Have you done an audit? In this case, I would ask you, before even we embark on this program of more classrooms, more laboratories, you do an audit. Because I recall one time also MPs got into construction of laboratories when we had the issue of computer labs, when we had the issue of tablets then, and they're just there, those structures. So it's like you want to get into them, and yet we have some of them already existing on the ground. Then finally, though we still have a report from the working committee, working party on education, do you think we are ready to have exams at grade 3? That we have exams at grade 3, then grade 6? Are we ready? Because I can see there's a budget for that. Then finally, Chair, this could be very personal. I have over 180 schools in my constituency. We've never had, because now I'm seeing vehicles have been bought, we've never had a vehicle for the sub-county office. From 2007, when I took over in 2013, Belio, you also became a PS. I made a request to you, and we are still together. You have never considered this sub-county. Now we have these 200 vehicles. PS, find favor. So, sir, thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, PS. I think you can go over those questions, but I have a last question on the issue of on the issue of CBC, and I think this is something that is very important. The issue of learning areas, especially in grade 7 and grade 8. Right now, as we speak, we have a number of learning areas which is spread across the original existing learning areas. What are you doing to ensure that the preparation of teachers on these new learning areas? And then 2, we also have what we call the curriculum-based establishment. I know it's an area for the Teacher Service Commission, but I know you being the owner of the learner, as we speak now, how many teachers are in those particular schools, and the distribution of learning materials across all those particular schools. Maybe you can respond to those.
Thank you, Chair. On the quality of classrooms, mainly the CBC classrooms, yes, we have received quite a number of complaints from a number of schools. The only thing, Chair, which I want to say, I'm not trying to run away from any responsibility, is that we take up classrooms in schools upon receipt of a certificate of completion and occupation by a competent, qualified professional. Just like we give out our certificates with Kenya National Examination Council, some qualified professional give us a certificate certifying that, yes, I've gone to that classroom, I've checked, it meets the standards, and this is the certificate, and your children can move in. So I think we need to start interrogating ourselves and our systems and be sure that what needs to be done is done. But I know our architects, our engineers, and public works give us certificate of occupation and completion. I think as a teacher, I would have a challenge to challenge a professional who has done and approved what they think they know better. On bending bills, we cannot run away from bending bills because it is, you'll still take it up as a responsibility, because at the end of this financial year, we shall do an audit and we shall write to National Treasury saying that you did not give us this exchequer and therefore we were not able to pay, and this is the pending bill. When an accounting officer says there are no pending bills, they say it out of confirmation. And this one I'm saying out of confirmation, not because I fear to say they are pending bills. On cluster of subjects for our teachers training colleges, our presidential working party is at the tail end, and this was one of their terms of reference. I'm aware that they have interrogated this quite well. It's not my space to say what they have decided, but I know by the 9th of June, when their term ends, they will guide the country on how we deal with these cluster subjects and all issues that are needed to be done. On the question of Meru and the other places, there are some places which are even more difficult than Meru, but there are learning outcomes and so many other factors that we looked at. There are some places in Kitui who are not getting it because their learning outcomes are good, they are doing quite well, and the environment may not be disadvantaging the learner, and therefore we never needed to bring up that environment so that the learner would not be disadvantaged. So it may not be about the resources and so many other things, but factors that may contribute to compromise learning outcomes. On that line called new TTCs, they are not new as that we are starting them. These are TTCs which were new to the extent that they were not like Mosorio, they were not like Meru Teachers College, they were just starting around that time. These were Ukenya, there were one in Kisii. So we're still trying to bring them to the extent of the ones which were there. There is one in Bunyore. They are not as, it is not that we are starting real new ones from the ground. We have only 31 of them, 32 of them. And originally we had 21, so these are the 11 who have come on over time. So we continuously try to bring them to the level of the others. The good thing is that we may not have so much motivation that it is construction because the money is not handled at the ministry headquarters. We give it to the teachers' college. And therefore, the headquarters may not be so motivated to make sure that the money is there, because there is no other benefit other than making sure that our teachers' colleges are conducive enough for our learners. Audit, I have answered that one, that it is currently being taken care of by Kenya National Audit Office. With the Audit Office is taking it up as their constitutional requirement. Just like they would audit the Ministry of Education, they also audit schools as part of their constitutional mandate. Yeah. On the audit on the requirements of our schools, we did one around COVID time, and we are now commissioning another one to make sure that when we start investment, at least we know almost all our junior secondary schools, they do not have the integrated resource centers or the labs. So we shall almost invest in each one of them. But we are going to invest in them in different ways. You go to some schools and they have more than classrooms they require. We shall remodel some of the classrooms into labs. So the investment might not be as much as a place where you are starting from the ground. So that assessment is ongoing. And I want to assure members that it will not be blanket. We shall be doing targeted way of that for sure we shall, because it's almost census.
Yeah.
We are almost doing every school. On assessment, we are not doing an exam at grade 3, but we are doing a monitoring of learner progress, which is school-based assessment. And I might not be so competent on this one. Maybe if you allow me, Chair, I can just finish and then I'll ask the CEO Examination Council to say that the assessment we do in grade 3, assessment we do in grade 6, those are purely monitoring learner progress, just like we do with NASIMLA or the other assessments. For you that every sub-county will have a vehicle. So I don't need any request from anybody because I'm sure everybody will get it. That I can assure all of us that that will happen.
Expected delivery date?
Other members, let's allow him to, when you have a follow-up question.
As early as June,
yes,
we shall start ensuring that they are available. Lastly, Chair, on the learning areas. Learning areas is one of the terms of reference of our Presidential Working Party. But in one of their interim reports, we are rationalizing the learning areas in terms of numbers and in terms of spread. Because the current grade 7, the learning areas were running up to 14. I think with 14, it is too heavy for that age of children at 11 years. And therefore the Presidential Working Party as rationalized, and they will be, as they release their report, they will be able to guide. But I can say for sure, we have rationalized the learning areas so that we don't overburden our learners. On teachers, I would not want to give figures which I'm not so sure, but at least I'm sure that we posted 30,000 new teachers. I know TSC has been doing assessment of teachers at primary school level who can teach at junior secondary. And this is an exercise that is even going on today. As late as even today, you will get teachers being allocated responsibilities in our junior secondary. So this is an exercise that is work in progress, that is ongoing. Chair, I want to believe that we have had a good engagement. Thank you very much.
Thank you. And I think Vice Chair has a follow-up small question, and then we wind it up.
Yeah, Chairman, you know, I was seeing like for grade 3, you're asking for a waiver of 1.4 million. I mean, 1.4 million. Billion, sorry. In your records. So if it's not that kind of examination, then why this kind of money, this big money, if it's school-based?
Thank you very much, Chair. If I may speak to why we need the assessment at grade 3 and grade 6. As part of the reforms that we are doing in basic education, we have said that we need to balance formative and summative assessments. Why we end up with a challenge that we have with examinations is that we have one exam at the end of a cycle. And you do not have any way of telling where these learners are as they go through the system. So you wait until they get to class 8 and you come with one exam. So that means if the learner was having challenges, there was no way of bringing up interventions. So in CBC, we are saying at grade 3 is a critical stage when they are moving from lower primary to upper primary to do a national assessment. As the PS says, it is purely to monitor the learner progress. So that if you need to do interventions, for example, if literacy is declining, then you can move in and intervene at the level of teacher capacity building or the kind of instructional materials, or if it is a curriculum issue, then we can feed back to KICD to look at the curriculum. In upper primary, grade 4, 5, and 6, we are doing the formative assessment, this purely school-based assessment, so that we can start to pick what are the potentials these learners have, what are the abilities they are having. And this will feed into eventually the pathways and tracks that they are going to select in senior secondary school. If you wait until they get to grade 9 and then you do one assessment, then you might be subjective in guiding them on the pathways and tracks that they should follow. So that is the spirit behind having these formative assessments starting as early as grade 3. Thank you.
Sure.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I just want to come from NEC through the school, or each school does their own assessment.
The school-based assessments are given a certain level of standard by the examination council, but still giving the teacher that level of freedom to be able to